Open your Bible to Exodus 34. The title of today's lesson is The Two Tablets Replace. Exodus 34, and let's read.
Exodus 34. The Lord said to Moses, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that were on the first tablet which you broke. Be ready in the morning, and then come up on Mount Sinai. Present yourself to me there on top of the mountain. No one is to come with you or be seen anywhere on the mountain, not even the flocks and herds may graze in front of the mountain." So Moses chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and went up Mount Sinai early in the morning, as the Lord had commanded him, and he carried the 2 stone tablets in his hands. Then the Lord came down in the cloud, and stood there with him, and proclaimed his name, the Lord. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, "The Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sins of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation." Moses bowed to the ground at once and worshipped. "O Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes," he said, "then let the Lord go with us. Although this is a stiff-necked people, forgive our wickedness and our sin, and take us as your inheritance." Then the Lord said, "I am making a covenant with you. Before all your people I will do wonders never before done in any nation in all the world. The people you live among will see how awesome is the work that I, the Lord, will do for you. Obey what I command you today. I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or they will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land, for when they prostitute themselves to their gods and sacrifice to them, they will invite you, and you will eat their sacrifices. And when you choose some of their daughters as wives for your sons, and those daughters prostitute themselves to their gods, they will lead your sons to do the same. Do not make cast idols. Celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Abib, for in that month you came out of Egypt. The first offspring of every womb belongs to me, including all the firstborn males of your livestock, whether from herd or flock. Redeem the firstborn donkey with a lamb, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. Redeem all your firstborn sons. And no one is to appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you shall labor, but on the 7th day you shall rest. Even during the plowing season and harvest you must rest. Celebrate the Feast of Weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times a year all your men are to appear before the sovereign Lord, the God of Israel. I will drive out nations before you and enlarge your territory. And no one will cover your land when you go up 3 times each year to appear before the Lord your God. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. And do not let any of the sacrifice from the Passover feast remain until morning. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write down these words, for in accordance with these words I have made a covenant with you and with Israel." Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, without eating bread or drinking water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant, because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, so Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him and spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all the commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. When Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever he entered the Lord's presence to speak with him, he removed the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the Israelites what he had been commanded, they saw that his face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil back over his face until he went in to speak with the Lord.
All right, now, the last time we were together, Moses was up on the mountain spending time with God, while the people were down on the ground with Aaron building the golden calf. Now, at this site, Moses smashes the stone tablets in his anger. After the Lord smote the people, it was time to resume the journey. Now, while on the mountain, Moses asked God, "I will pray thee, show me thy glory." In Exodus 34:18, then the Lord passes Moses in the cleft of the rock. In this chapter, the 2 tablets will be replaced. Now, we start out by seeing who the Lord is speaking to. Notice verse 1. Now the Lord said to Moses. So we see who the Lord is speaking to. Then God gives Moses some commands concerning him coming up the mountain. We notice this in verses 1 through 3. Now the Lord said to Moses, "Cut out for yourself 2 stone tablets like the former ones, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets which you shattered. So be ready by morning, and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. And no man is to come up with you, nor let any man be seen anywhere on the mountain. Even the flocks and the herds may not graze in front of that mountain." So we see that the command the Lord gives him, and the Lord was very strict on what he wanted here. Now Moses obeys what he is told. Look at verse 4. So he cut out 2 stone tablets like the former ones. And Moses rose up early in the morning and went up to Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him. And he took 2 stone tablets in his hand. So we see Moses is going up the mountain, and he's about to have the tablets that he destroyed replaced. Now, the Lord comes down in the cloud and proclaims. Look at verses 5 through 7. And the Lord descended in the cloud and stood there with him as he called upon the name of the Lord. Then the Lord passed by in front of him and proclaimed, the Lord God, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abiding in loving kindness and truth, who keeps loving kindness for thousands, who gives iniquity, transgressions, and sin, yet he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished, visiting the iniquities of the fathers on the children and on the grandchildren to the 3rd and 4th generations. Next, we see Moses worships God and asks him to come along with them on the journey. We see this in verses 8 through 9. Moses made haste to bow low to the earth and worship, and he said, "If now I have found favor in thy sight, O Lord, I pray, let the Lord go along in our midst, even though the people are so obstinate, and do thy pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us as thine own possession." So, like a lot of us do in the morning time when we are going on our journey, we ask the Lord to cover us and to go with us and to lead us. And this is exactly what Moses is asking here. Okay, now we will look at the covenant renewed. Now, in the coming verses, the Lord gives Moses more commandments for Israel to follow. We will work through them as we read. And we're going to look at verses 10 through 28. starting with verse 10. Then God said, behold, I am going to make a covenant before all your people. Talking to Moses, I will proclaim miracles which have not been produced in the earth, nor among any other nations. And all the people among whom you live will see the working of the Lord, for it is a fearful thing that I am going to perform with you. The Lord makes it clear what he's going to do. And notice that he said that the people amongst you will see these miracles. In other words, this is something to stand his people out amongst others. Pick back up at verse 11. Be sure to observe what I am commanding you this day. Behold, I am going to drive out the Amorite before you, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. So he's going to remove their enemies before them. Verse 12. Watch yourself that you make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land into which you are going, lest it become a snare in your midst. Now the Lord is letting him know the lands you're passing through, you're going to meet other people, but you do not make a covenant with them. Much is the way the Lord does with us today. You are not supposed to be with those who you are unequally yoked with, because you will maybe end up following them the same way Solomon did later on. Verse 13, but rather you are to tear down their altars and smash their sacred pillars and cut down their Asherim, for you shall not worship any other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God. The Lord is very clear. You are not to worship their gods. As a matter of fact, you are not to even tolerate their gods. You're supposed to tear down their idols. Pick it back up at verse 15. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land and play the harlot, we just spoke about that, with their gods and sacrifice to their gods, and someone invite you to eat of his sacrifice. So they are not supposed to make nice and friendly with these inhabitants of the other land who are worshiping these other gods. And you take some of his daughters for your sons, and his daughters play the harlot with their gods, and cause your sons also to play the harlot with their gods. What is the Lord saying here to Moses? Because if you start intermingling with them and you give your sons to their daughters, your sons are going to end up worshiping their gods. 17. You shall make for yourself no molten gods. 18. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread, as I command you, at the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came out of Egypt. The first offspring from every womb belongs to me, and all your male livestock, the first offspring from cattle and sheep. You shall redeem with a lamb the first offspring from a donkey, and if you do not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. You shall redeem all the firstborn of your sons, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. This is about them bringing their offerings to the Lord. You shall work 6 days, but on the seventh day you shall rest. Even during plowing time and harvest you shall rest. So the Lord is telling them this is how you refresh your body, which is the same way we should do today. You should at least have a day that you should refresh your body. He's giving you 6 days to work, but you need 1 day to just refresh and get your spirit right, your mind right, and get your physical body right. Pick it back up at 22. You shall celebrate the Feast of Weeks. This is the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will drive out nations before you and enlarge your borders. And no man shall covet your land when you go up 3 times a year to appear before the Lord your God. Okay, and that was pretty self-explanatory. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor is the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover to be left over until morning. We saw this before, where when they had the feast, they were supposed to eat everything that night. You shall bring the first fruits of your soil into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a kid in his mother's milk. A kid is a goat. Verse 27. Then the Lord said to Moses, write down these words, for in accordance with these words, I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat bread or drink water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. Now, it is to me, when I read that Moses was there 40 days and 40 nights, it said he didn't need bread or water. Now, why do you think that is? I think it's because he's in the Lord's presence. And when you're in the Lord's presence, you are in the presence of eternity. We're talking about the God that strengthens you. So I believe that the Lord gave him this strength. Remember, God created these bodies. He stitched us in our mother's womb, and he knew what we needed to sustain. Now, we know that every human being needs food and water to sustain, right? So I believe that the reason that Moses could sustain this is because he's in God's presence. Now, a lot of people go to churches where they do these fasts, where they try to fast like Moses. They do the 40-day, 40-night fast. I believe that that is something that is not good for people to do. I believe that the Lord designed our bodies to take in food and water for these bodies to keep going. I believe only in front of the Lord are you able to do this fast, but some people may think different. Some people may say, hey man, I've done a 40-day fast. And listen, I'm not going to knock anybody's experience. I'm not going to tell you that you didn't do it. I'm just saying that I believe that the reason that Moses could sustain this is because he was in the Lord's presence. Now, we move on and we see Moses' face shines. We learn here that when you spend time with God, there will be a change in your appearance. Now, I'm not saying that you and I will have a shining face when we spend time with the Lord in prayer, but it did happen to Moses. Look at verse 29. And it came about when Moses was coming down from Mount Sinai, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hand as he was coming down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because of his speaking with him. Now, I believe this was something that was for Moses, just for Moses, because he was in the Lord's presence. Now, the people were afraid to approach Moses. We see this in verse 30. So when Aaron and all the sons of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. Well, that would make sense. If you see this man who you've known all this time and now he's coming down and his face is shining, you may wonder what's going on with him. It may set you back a little bit, and scare you a little bit. So that's understandable. Now, Moses calls the people and then tells them what saith the Lord. Look at verses 31 through 33. Then Moses called to them, and Aaron and the rulers in the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. And afterwards all the sons of Israel came near, and he commanded them to do everything that the Lord had spoken to him on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Okay, now from here on out, Moses would uncover his face when he spoke with the Lord. But the moment he left the Lord's presence and faced the people, he put the veil back on. Look at verses 34 and 35. But whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would take off the veil until he came out. And whenever he came out and spoke to the sons of Israel what he had been commanded, the sons of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face shone. So Moses would replace the veil over his face until he went in to speak with him being the Lord. So Moses was doing this because it was self-explanatory at this point that Moses knew that his face was shining. Now, maybe he didn't know that when he first came down the mountain, but of course someone would have to tell him what was going on. So for respect for the people and to not put fear in them, he would cover his face. Well, that brings us to the end of Exodus 34. Thank you for listening to this podcast, however you may get in it. We're out there on all the mediums. Remember our YouTube channel, Berean's Corner. We have a Linktree link in there that will tell you where else to find us, where else to get the podcast and other things that we do. That's all for now. God bless.